welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and this week I want to do a retrospective on the elites of the core set of Smash Up. The elites are the Power 4 minions, which you can remember by the fact that there are 2 elites per faction for a total of 8 power. Just like the Elite 8 in what's another coincidence, but I'm really good at reverse engineering things. This video is going to be heavily influenced by how much you adhere to the Bandit rules of design. As someone who wrote the Bandit rules, follows them, and happens to be named Bandit, I am obviously heavily biased towards them, but it's important to allow the audience to factor that in when understanding my opinion on these elites. As the beginning of the upper tier in terms of minion ranks, elites should be great. But are they? Let's find out. I'll be starting with Laser Tops this time, which I give an F. Now, referring to the aforementioned Bandit rules, one of those rules is that duplication and deprecation of abilities should be avoided by any means necessary. In my opinion, this should never happen in the same set, and particularly should never happen in the first set when you have a clean slate. If I were a time traveler, I would definitely revisit the time of the core set and stop this from happening. But sadly, I'm not a Chrononaut, so it happened to Laser Tops. Laser Tops has a repeatability of Saucy Wench, but sort of, while being objectively weaker than Tiger Assassin. First, I want to call out the Saucy Wench ability, which is actually better than Laser Tops because it is optional. Laser Tops is mandatory, and though I can't explain why I feel this way, I have the impression it's because dinosaurs are dumb. And this is a terrible reason, because you run the risk of destroying yourself for what is not even a good ability. In fact, it's surprising that the mandatory versus optional isn't flipped. Destruction isn't really part of the dinosaur strategy when you remove Laser Tops, but it is definitely part of the pirate strategy. Additionally, dinosaurs have the raw power increases to blow past someone with their minion in action, which is incredibly important because they have no extra plays and a ton of temporary power, which means they want as much power on the base to make it effective and easy to use. But what really hurts Laser Tops is Armor Stego, because they tell a completely contradictory story. Laser Tops wants to destroy to slow down an opponent and remove power, but Armor Stego gives it right back and on their turn. At best, this is a convoluted 2-power swing, but if you had any idea how many times I have played dinosaurs, when I say that this swing has never happened to me, I mean it. I do want to acknowledge a comment from Dustin Burlett about my harshness on dinosaurs, because I really do like them, but that's in spite of some problematic cards in my opinion. I'm not sure, but I think that might be my favorite in the core set right now. That doesn't stop Laser Tops from being bad, and I haven't even addressed that Tiger Assassin can do everything Laser Tops can do, better, optionally, and with a better context too. Going in alphabetical order, we conveniently have Tiger Assassin next, which I give a generous B. Now you can ask, is Laser Tops worse, or is Tiger Assassin better? The issue is that Tiger Assassin violates a different rule because Ninja Master is just better. Tiger Assassin is also actionized as Seeing Stars. Tiger Assassin contributes to the Take That reputation of Smash Up, but I think there is a simple fix. Tiger Assassin should have been a mini Megalodon. I am a big believer that if you take a destruction ability and make it work in Phase 3 instead, it completely changes the direction. Just look at the threat level of Caparoja, another elite who you know will destroy something and you have to play around it. Without a burst of their own, too much destruction can hurt the ninjas and make them really inflexible to play, but delayed destruction would suit them perfectly. Plus, in the Hidden Ninja case, Tiger Assassin functions exactly the same way, and we get that important rule about 18 expansions in advance. I still think Tiger Assassin provides value in the ninja context, but it's not as much as it could be. Next we have Buccaneer of the Pirates, and this may surprise some, but I give it a C. Now everyone will say that the Pirates have the Buccaneer play with Powder Keg, and that's true. But consider this, you have 2 Buccaneers and 1 Powder Keg. And after you do that, then what? Also, does the Powder Keg play really help the Pirates, who want to spread out and would lose their own minions in the process? Given that the first mates remain in play, it's very possible that the base that should be the Powder Keg play would result in losing some of your own minions. There's also the fact that Buccaneer's movement requires particular synergy to be effective, while being perhaps weaker than Warbot. A stationary indestructible minion would achieve the same effect, without causing an infinite loop that is surprisingly unresolved. Buccaneer doesn't really give the Pirates more synergy partners in a way that Warbot types wouldn't, and the nature of its ability can sometimes make you hold on to it until you have Powder Keg, making the hand-sensitive Pirates even more clogged. One good play isn't enough for me, and that's harsh, but fair. Speaking of Warbot, he's next. I talked about what a Warbot-like minion would mean to Pirates, but how much does Warbot mean to robots? Well, for a very destruction-prone faction, having a destruction-proof minion makes a degree of sense. The issue is, the ability is given to a 4, which is already hard enough to destroy. Additionally, if Warbot is your easy second place minion, you are doing so with a larger footprint than you need. They provide some nice synergies without the headache of having to constantly move if you really need that presence there, but really, for the robots, the only thing Warbot does is provide a finishing target for Microbot Guard. But for that to be the case, you need 5 minions on that base, which is a lot of power, so why are you finishing with Microbot Guard unless you are targeting someone else? I feel generous at giving it a B, so I'm going to have to give it a high C. I don't like Nukebot, but Nukebot has the feeling of destruction proof while allowing for more interesting destruction synergies. Next we have Brownie. Brownie, as I stated in a previous video, is really hard to judge because it's the type of ability that is difficult to quantify. It's a deterrent, and unless you ask someone, you don't know how much of an effect it has on them. There is no aggro in the Tricksters, nothing that says I should consider harming Brownie. But I have gotten Brownie to trigger, and it has value against base effects that cannot avoid affecting Brownie. But Brownie's ability is also a big reason why the Witness rule, or more specifically the Retaliation rule, is in effect, because without it, Brownie would do very little. So Brownie has to lose points for that. Where does all this land? It's hard not to give Brownie a D without strong anecdotal evidence, and he led the game down a bad direction in terms of rules. It cements the feeling I have that Tricksters are not really tricking you, and that's unfortunate. Brownie proves Tricksters just need a minion redesign. Next we have Chrono Mage of the Wizards, which I give a D, and I stand by that. Chrono Mage violates the same Tiger Assassin rule, being objectively worse than Archmage, except in extremely rare cases. But what really hurts Chrono Mage is the idea that Chrono Mage was nerfed prematurely. Now I do like Enchantress at 2, because of the special abilities afforded to power 2 minions. Archmage as a 4 is unnecessary, but Chrono Mage at a 3? This is a crime. Again, outside of some very specific synergies, this hurts them, especially for a faction that has extra minion plays which should be used terminally. And I often point to the existence of a Titan as an indication that Wizards didn't need the nerf. Maybe they just seemed better in the core set because history has really been unkind to the Chrono Mage. You have Puck who can draw a card at a lower rank. You have Ronin who can play the action as a soldier. You have Disco Lu as an elite who is a 4 who can play an action or recur in action. And while I maintain that the Kree don't replace Wizards, I must admit Chrono Mage really doesn't help their cause. I'd even take the Wand Wiz over Chrono Mage because I usually have too many cards with Wizards anyway, and I prefer the flexibility to play a minion instead. If you were going to power cap them, maybe they should have been a scrying minion like Stoneford so that they could combo with Archmage rather than competing for limited resources. For the zombies, we have Gravedigger, one of the best minions in the game. But is that good for zombies? I think that Gravedigger is too good for an elite ability and is a big part of the reason why zombies are too strong. While I would give Tenacious Z an S, I won't do that for Gravedigger. The fact that there are 2 means that they can recur each other while also comboing with They Keep Coming to basically play any 2 minions from your discard pile as long as one of them is a Gravedigger. Compare the effect to someone like Lunar Captain, which I like. It takes a lot for Lunar Captain to achieve the effect of Gravedigger in recurring of 5, and how many times in a row can you trigger Lunar Captain before someone piles on and breaks it up? Gravedigger's instant access to your hand for a lower ranked minion is definitely above baseline, but it does play a big role in the zombie strategy, so I'd have to give it a B. If I were nerfing zombies, I'd give them cuts across the board, but I could also see this being Zombie Lord's ability, because I honestly value Gravedigger over Zombie Lord unless I need that 1 power. This brings us back to the Invader. Now you can make a case that the Invader should be an S. You can make a case that the Invader should be an F. This is really tough, because the Invader is the minion that makes aliens work. They completely revolve around them. Is this a good thing? It depends on whom you ask. I do want to call out a few things though. I've been meaning to talk about this for forever, but someone once suggested that the Invader should be nerfed to 2 power, and I politely disagreed. Invader is a clear example of the fact that reducing a minion's power can be a buff in the right situations. Changing Invader to 4 would kill the faction. Changing Invader to a 2 would make aliens insane, like 12 points on the homeworld in a turn insane. I used to really enjoy aliens until I felt like I was playing a different game. And though I've talked about alternate win conditions as a good thing, the Invader is different, because losing a 14-14 tie because you played an Invader feels extremely cheap. It's also an issue for balancing, because what do you do in that space? Bushi takes work to get that VP, and may not trigger, and that's how I feel VP cards should be. Invader is objectively better than so many other VP cards, and spamming them is so easy that it feels like an obligation to drive up the Invader VP as high as you can. Yes, I've won a game with 15 Invader points, but I was really trying to do so, and it meant completely foregoing the breaking of bases. This was fun at first, but in hindsight it really lost its novelty for me. And the reason is that, in a game of two factions, it is really impossible to synergize with the aliens unless you are synergizing with invaders. I don't want to fault Invader entirely though, because they still have terraforming and crop circles, but I do have to wonder if, like Gravedigger, Invader should have been the leader. But that would mean that losing the Invader would tank the alien strategy. If you made the Invaders power cap minions who have guaranteed VP on scoring, that would be a starting point for framing the rest of the faction. So where does that leave Invader? I'd have to split the extremes and give it a C. It draws too much attention and is clearly infamous, and it made the aliens a true one-trick pony, but I do see its value, and I can absolutely see someone else giving them an S. This week, the elite scores weren't that great. Some elites are just too strong, while others actively work against their faction. If you are archetyping the elite rank, I don't think this is the set you would use. But again, this depends on how much you value the bandit rules. Do you agree with my assessments? Which ones would you change? And do you want to see the same format for the leaders for next week? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.